Hello everyone. Hello dear colleagues all around the globe. Welcome to Teach.Love.Earn interview sessions with the teachers worldwide. Today I have a special guest and we will be talking about the deliberate and naive practices which we use when we say it depends whether we use it or not, but my guest, Mr.Antoine Marcq from Belgium, who's currently based in Russia, will be introducing us to these practices, to this topic, to this matter, because we keep saying to our students, practice makes perfect, but what kind of practice, it all really depends and it matters. We will discuss the 10K hour rule. Is it correct? Does it make sense? Is it beneficial? Is it useful? So we will know all the true story behind it. And also we will be talking about building reflexes and system 1, system 2 thoughts, because this is something what we can use in order to build our students up to fluency as one of the key aspects of the actual ELT classroom. So no more suspense, guys. Welcome my guest, Mr. Antoine Marcq. Let me just add him. He is here. Hello,
Hello.
Antoine. How are you?
Very good, very good.
Happy to see you. Glad that you made it.
Happy to see you too.
Antoine, if you could just say a little bit more words about yourself and about the project that you are running, just an introduction to everyone.
Well, there's not that much to say. I'm very much like everybody else. I'm a teacher of English. I'm based here in St. Petersburg. My partner and I, Tom Wiseman, we set up a language school that we kind of see as a bit of our laboratory where we experiment, test different methodologies, approaches, and we develop our own materials. And that's why we founded as well Resource Education afterwards. It's a website for teachers. We provide materials, supplementary materials that are designed to build fluency and accuracy in tandem. So that's kind of the topic of today's talk: deliberate practice, purposeful practice, naive practice, and honestly, all that kind of practice that we kind of lack. We don't have those in textbooks. So we're going to talk about that today. And I have to say, well, that was a quick introduction about myself. I'm not a big fan of talking about myself. I did want to praise you, though, Olga, talk about you more than myself, because you put together a great number of posts and stories to build up for this interview, and they were all very telling. You even got me going. You remember one of the stories, I reacted to your post, and I was like, oh, but this is this, and this is that. And it was just brilliant. It was very nicely done. I think it pays tribute to you as a professional, and I can only imagine how lucky your students are, because preparation and thoroughness is a quality.
Oh, thank you so much, Antoine. That's such kind words. Thank you so much, because I was really looking forward to our interview, to our session, because when we discussed with you and you introduced the topics which you would like to cover, and it was already for me a discovery, because obviously a lot of us have learned or heard or maybe even advocate to our students about these 10,000 hours exercising rule. Kind of, you want to be an expert, don't worry, don't rush, you need to exercise for that many hours, which is not true, and I did not know about it, and I really wanted to bring it up, kind of the interest, to our session, so that it is not something what is already known, but that will be some kind of new information indeed. And I'm so thankful to you that you suggested such topics. I'm really curious to know all of the details. Can you please start with this practices topic? So can you please tell us what is the problem with this 10K rule? Maybe it is also some kind helpful for this plateau, if I'm saying it correctly, this intermediate plateau, right? So maybe these practices really have to do something with this notion which our students are facing.
I fully agree that practice does make perfect, and I really like the way that a great professor based in Germany puts it, Ron Moraine. He says, practice makes progress, actually. It's not a guarantee of perfection, and really, what is perfection when we talk about language? Is it talking like the Queen? Is it talking like Shakespeare? Is it talking like Paul McCartney? And I only cited British examples. So I like the idea that practice makes progress.
I've never heard it actually, and I like it as well. Oh my God, it sounds even better.
Yes. The 10K rule is a myth that the author, Anders Ericsson, himself debunked. And I like the fact that you start with this, because I think in our day and age, it's very important for us to be aware that we live in an era of slogans.
Mm-hmm.
On the internet, there are a lot of journalists and pseudo-journalists, and it's not really their fault. It's the way the news works nowadays. Everybody is looking for that catchy slogan that is going to make everybody click. And so it is true that in his book, Anders Ericsson talks about 10K hours of practice that a certain expert needed to develop his or her expertise. I honestly don't remember the exact example, but it is an example. It is a case of somebody. I think we all know people are different, and we all have different abilities. We all have different realities. To just say that you need 10,000 hours to develop an expertise in any field and for any human being, it's a myth. It's a myth. And it's something that, yes, a few authors quickly jumped at when they read his book, and they started typing away on the internet. It blew out of proportion, and we were left with this myth of 10K hours of practice. Now, Anders Ericsson does elaborate on practice. It is very interesting what he elaborates on. But yes, it is more important to understand the concept of purposeful practice, deliberate practice, and naive practice than to stick to a number, because that number is just a slogan.
Absolutely. I like how you put it in the way that it goes viral indeed. Somebody read a book, then picked something up, composed another book, and then people like spread it on Instagram or anywhere, and then I can see the post like 10,000K and you will become an expert, and everyone starting like practicing, exercising, but that's not the case. Antoine, can you please share a little bit more details of these deliberate, purposeful, and naive practices, and how is it relevant to the ELT classroom, for example, and in practice, what would it look like, how we can implement it?
Well, you're right to bring up the fact that, yes, we have to think about it in our context as language teachers, because Anders Ericsson's research is not at all limited to language learning. So his great book called Peak, in his studies, he went and met experts of various different fields, and he interviewed them and tried to get to the bottom of how they developed that expertise. And that's how he came with these different types of practices that all experts go through to reach a certain level of expertise. So he outlined these different kinds of practices that I find really, really, really help us out as language teachers, because I don't know about you, how you trained to be an English teacher. I was trained mostly towards the communicative approach, and I was taught about this different step of practice, controlled, semi-controlled, theory of
Yes,
practice,
yes,
things like
yes.
that. It makes sense, but it didn't really go very deeply to me. I was trained to think that all I had to do was present a topic in a certain way, and then have these 3 elements of practice that lead to a production. And everything will go fine. Students will be able to use whatever you taught them just like that. In practice, we know that's not the case. That's not the case. And students themselves know it doesn't happen like that. So I'd like to start with naive practice.
All right.
Naive practice is interesting. Now, the name itself sounds a bit judgmental. Let's face it. Naive practice.
Yeah, it's a little bit confusing. It's like you cannot imagine what exactly it stands for, what it has behind it.
Well, I like to put it this way. Naive practice is about accumulating more life experience. And that can produce results. Actually, that can produce quite good results. Take the example of people who go to a foreign country and learn the language just like that. It is actually my story. I came to Russia not even knowing the alphabet.
Okay.
And I have to admit, I wasn't a very good student at first. I mainly listened and paid attention to, the interactions that I had in the shops, things like that, and tried to repeat what I heard, overheard, things like that. Now, that is accumulating life experience, and it did bring me to a certain level, for sure. It is good practice. Naive practice is not bad practice at all. It is good practice. But as Anders Ericsson puts it, if you limit yourself to naive practice, such as that, accumulating more experience, it is going to help you reach a certain acceptable level.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm sure you can relate to that, Olga. I mean, learning Russian just by listening to people speak and repeating as much as I can. How proficient do you think I am with cases? I know in Poland, in Polish, you have cases as well. In English and in French, my 2 native languages, we don't.
You know, I can totally relate this, because this is actually how I picked up Polish language. I came to Poland, I spoke 0. I could only say like thank you, and that was all. Hello, goodbye. I learned everything here. And I never learned it kind of with grammar, let's say, with the book. So I can really express myself exactly as you say. I understand a lot when I hear the speech, the flow, but the cases, oh my God, forget it. It's like I'm always confused. I need to think. Yes, exactly. I so understand you.
So we both reached an acceptable level in that language. We can communicate, as you said, we can get by, and it's great. It's a very acceptable level. Now, not really mastering the cases, how comfortable do I feel if I have to give a live interview like this in Russian, or give a speech in Russian? I'm kind of embarrassed by the case mistakes that I might make.
Thank you.
It's absolutely natural. It's normal. It's absolutely normal. And naive practice is only going to get us that far. At one point, we need either purposeful or deliberate practice and the help of an experienced teacher or coach. I would like to think that you would probably be able to pick up the cases faster than me because, well, you do have cases in your native language. So for you, you already kind of have the logic of changing the ending of a word based on its function in the language. But in French and English, I even need to get that reflex of like changing the ending. It doesn't make it, it's not part of me. And this is where we get into purposeful and deliberate practice, and actually a little detour as well, because it's important to note as well the difference between the two thought processes, system 1 and system 2. So this is Dr. Daniel Kahneman that elaborated on that. I want to say almost 40, 50 years ago, actually. His first book on that was quite a while back. The difference between our rational thinking and our reflexes. This is what deliberate practice and purposeful practice can help us with. It's building reflexes so that we do not need to think rationally when building a sentence. Because as you said, if we can start studying those cases, for you Polish, for me Russian, but I always like to start workshops like that with, especially here with Russian teachers, because it speaks to them when I show them how I have to build a sentence in Russian, for example. Я пошел в магазин, потому что у нас не было молока. And I ask them, what do you think goes on my head to construct that sentence? Well, I need to start first, even the beginning. Я пошел, well, я, I'm a man. So it changes the ending of the verb. And in Russian, actually, I need to think about the verb of movement because there's a different verb, whether I'm going on foot, by transport, if I'm flying there, things like that. Oh my gosh. Not just that. Students like complaining about perfect aspects in English, but there's something a bit similar in Russian as well. These different verbs. Совершенный вид, несовершенный вид.
Exactly, yes.
Oh, and that's just the two first words. So if I need to think rationally about all these things every time I'm speaking Russian, I will never reach that fluency that will enable me to have natural conversations in Russian. I'm going to be there constructing sentences, and everybody else is going to carry on with the conversation. It's going to take me 2 minutes to get ready to say what I want to say, and I'm going to be like, oh, guys, remember 2 minutes ago we were talking about that thing? Yeah, I had something to say, all right? Doesn't work that way.
Absolutely. So, but can I ask, because I haven't read this book, but it's certainly on my to-read list. I'm just finishing another, okay, I'm in the middle of another book, so I have to finish that one. And I'm so curious to read the big book. Before that, what is the exact difference, if you can say just in a few words, between the deliberate and purposeful? Is there like a specific critical difference, right? Because he distinguished 3 of them. And what does it look like?
So I actually brought examples because, like most of you out there, I'm pretty sure I've been teaching all day. I had teen groups this afternoon, so actually I still have a few activities with me that I used with them, and I'll provide examples. Now let's first start in general with the idea of purposeful and deliberate practice. They're very close. As the name implies, they're practiced with a certain purpose. So our goal here, when naive practice is kind of an accumulation of experience, it means there's no specific goal, specific purpose we are after. When we do purposeful practice, we have a specific goal, a specific purpose. We want to improve a specific thing. It can be grammar, it can be vocabulary, I know there is a great trend to say that grammar is evil. I absolutely don't think so. I think most people who think grammar is evil actually don't really know how to deal with grammar because they don't know about purposeful and deliberate practice. Grammar is not evil. It's part of any language. It doesn't mean that it's everything about the language, but it is part of the language. It is part of the language. And it's one thing to understand the knowledge behind any kind of grammar that you explain. This is the knowledge part. But how do you get it to be a skill? Through purposeful practice, deliberate practice, you specifically target an item of the language that you want to improve. It means that nothing else can surprise the student in here. So a basic example that I really love, I think we all know those intermediate, even sometimes upper intermediate students that still make mistakes with he, she, it plus s.
Happens.
Now, let's face it, what can we do with these people? I mean, am I going to walk in a classroom with my upper intermediate students and teach them present simple again? They understand present simple. The knowledge bit is clear. They understand present simple. If I do that, they're not going to listen to me. They're going to start sleeping, start chatting, whatever. They're not going to pay attention. That is not, it's not useful. They have the knowledge, but apparently it's not a skill yet. So how can I transform it into a skill? Well, I'm going to take cards, and I'm going to start with pronouns. He, she, it, I, you, we, they. And for each card, they're going to stack them up. And for each card, they're just going to say do or does, depending on the pronoun. So here we are together. For example, you have the cards. You're student A, Olga. I'm student B. And you take the cards, and you start just showing me the cards. And I react every time. You do. He does. She does. We do. They do. It does. Good, Antoine. Bravo. We take the cards again. We shuffle them. And how are we going to turn this kind of practice into a purposeful practice? Another aspect of it is giving feedback and setting specific goals. So we do it a first time without any stress to me, because we want to check that the knowledge is clear. The student needs to be able to do it at their own pace, calmly, freely. Okay, I know I can do this at my own pace. It's fine. All right. Now you take out a timer, you shuffle the cards, and you make me do it again. And I do it again. I do, we do, they do, he does, she does, you do. And you give me a certain time. Say, oh, look, Antoine, you did it in 10 seconds 54. Bravo, bravo, Antoine, pretty good. You know what, Antoine, that's pretty good, but I think you can do it in 6 seconds 30. 6 seconds 30, all right, that's a challenge, that's a challenge. And I'm going to have 3 attempts to reach that challenge. So you're going to shuffle the cards again and do it again. And I'm going to go from like 10, I don't remember what time I gave you at first. Well, 10 seconds 30, I'm going to reach 9 seconds 30, and then 8:40. And then I might make a mistake. I might go back to 8:50. But gradually, I am going to see my progress, feel my progress. And because of this time, my brain is pushed to make shortcuts. Stop thinking about the pronoun, Antoine. Make a reflex. And my brain gradually develops those reflexes. So this is purposeful and deliberate practice. Now, I keep repeating both of them together. Why? The main difference between the two, you can give those cards for homework to your students. In that case, it's only purposeful practice. It is deliberate practice when you have the assistance of a trained, experienced teacher or coach. It is essential. because the teacher or coach with experience knows when to challenge you, when to push you out of your comfort zone, and when to step back. The brain is a delicate thing. We human beings are delicate beings. So that's our role as a trained, experienced teacher, coach, to know when to push, when to ease the student. It's like, everything's fine, you're doing good. Now push again. Come on, come on, come on. We need to feel that.
I think that would be tremendously helpful for students, I mean, and for teachers to implement those three practices, because I guess all of three kind of can be used separately by a student or by a teacher in order to help students, because even this naive practice, it's like you need to be in the flow, you need to relax your brain. Yes, you said just accumulate experience. This is also important, because this is something what some students struggle with. They know all of the present simple rules and everything else, and all of the conditionals and all of the theory, but there is no flow. So we can also help them to concentrate more on the naive practice. Do I understand it correctly, that we can facilitate all three of them?
I fully agree, yes.
Because this is just what I'm currently imagining, according to what you.
Yes, you're imagining right. I would say a naive practice in the English classroom would be basically a kind of production activity or a project that you give your students without any hints as to what you want them to use. Because sometimes we give a production activity or a project to students and we clearly give them hints. Oh, look, you're going to do job interviews. Use your present perfect to talk about your experiences, your narrative tenses to give details. All this vocabulary about success so that you can show off, blah, 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 blah. Well, that's not so much naive, because it's not a free life experience. But if you just put your students into job interview situations without any hints, without any, guys, today I just want to give you some extra experience with English. So here's some job role plays, here's some companies, and you're going to do some job interviews. That's exactly it. You're absolutely right.
And thank you so much for sharing this small activity, even with the cards, because I've never done such activity. That's so interesting. And I'm gonna comment also on the other activities which I watched on your channel. And just before that, I would like to also ask, I had a question in my mind about this deliberate practice and purposeful. Is it possible to bring kind of any piece of grammar material or lexis to such practice? Can we teachers use it for any topic we need to cover with our students? Is it possible that we can adjust it and use it?
Absolutely. That's what my partner Tom Wiseman and I do. Basically, we develop all these activities specifically for that on our website, Resource Education, because it's invaluable. It's really important to language teaching. Yes. Well, let me answer in a two-step way. First, to expand again on the idea, I agree with you. This basic deliberate practice example that I gave you about do, does, just to illustrate again the role of an experienced, trained teacher coach. What can I do with these cards? I said that I started with pronouns. Now, what the teacher coach wants to do is gradually push the student out of their comfort zone. So when I see that they've built their reflexes fine with those cards, with the pronouns, my next step will be to tell student A, it was you, Olga, instead of showing the card, just read the card. So the student B stops reading the card and reacting to what they see, but starts reacting to what they hear, because, hey, in a language, you often react to what you hear. Similarly, next level, I will bring cards that are not just pronouns, because most of the time, we don't always use pronouns. We use nouns and noun phrases. So I don't know, bears, doctors, the three queens, I don't know. All these different cards with different kind of subjects instead of just pronouns, different kind of subjects. And that is my role, to know when they're ready for this. For example, the nouns. Remember that deliberate practice is deliberately targeted at one specific aspect of the language. So all of the nouns that are on my cards, my students need to know them. If there's a new word on the card, their system two, their knowledge, their logic wakes up and goes, teacher, what's this word? Oh, we broke the deliberate practice for he, she, it plus s. So that is our role, basically, to know this. And so, yes, any grammar, any vocabulary can be automated. Yes, you're absolutely right. I said that I would bring you examples, and today, with my teams group, they asked me to revise. They were struggling with, you know how sometimes at schools the program is pushing them too fast, because schools have an agenda. They need to reach a certain, like, they need to finish their book, so they're pushing sometimes students. And my students told me, look, report speech, we're making mistakes, we're not getting it. No problem, no problem. So of course, we went over the theory again, just very quickly, just to check that they understand the knowledge part. And then, I love cards. And I've got physical cards again, but all this you can do online as well. I brought them a series of cards. The first deliberate practice we did was this. I have cards with beginning of I said, she told me, he said, and cards with direct speech. And simply just the same procedure as I explained for do, does. They took the first card, boom, and they made it into, so I said the milk was old. Boom, next one. My boss said he didn't have any batteries. Boom, boom, boom. And they continue like this, card after card, always the same procedure. The first time, no stress, no timer, so that my students feel, I know this. I can do it, I'm fine. Second time, with a timer, to have a baseline. They need to see their progress. So they need to have a baseline, a place where they started. And then I give them a challenge, and they have 3 attempts to reach that challenge.
That must be super fun for them, and it's interesting, it's motivating, engaging, and the time flies super fast. And the most important, that they see the progress and they feel it immediately during the classroom. And I think they must be, oh my God, super happy. Thank you for sharing this idea as well. I just would like to mention that on the Resource Education website, you guys can find about 10% of the materials absolutely open for free. Is it correct? So
absolutely,
everyone can come to the website and just check everything what Antoine and Tom, am I correct? Tom are doing. So guys, please check it out, the Resource Education website together with the YouTube channel, because I will also wanted to ask you, Antoine, if we still have time, briefly at least, and then we can also have one more session about it. There was the video about building up the fluency for students, and you already mentioned this, that there is this system 1, system 2. I read about it because I did not know before you told me that this is kind of fast and slow system. And this is something to do with the reflexes, which will tremendously help us to build the fluency, whoever we are, teachers or students. Can you please say a bit more here as well?
So that's from Dr. Daniel Kahneman's book, Thinking Fast and Slow. And it's very interesting what he discovered. He's called the grandfather of behavioral psychology because he explained how irrational we are, let's say. we do like, and especially the more we grow up, the more we think I'm rational, I'm logical, I'm in control of my decisions. It turns out not so much. And we see a lot on social networks, things like that. We're very quick to react. And these reactions are our system one. And it actually comes from, it's survival instinct. Imagine if all drivers needed to think which pedal to press in light of danger.
Oh no.
Wait, so my left pedal is this, my right pedal is, okay. No, with enough practice, it becomes a reflex. A good driver, if they see danger, their foot automatically stops, presses the right pedal. I like the example as well of analog clocks. If anybody has a clock nearby, just quickly, right now, what's the time?
For me, 8:02.
8:02. Now, tell me, Olga, did you go through the whole process of, okay, so the small hand is pointing at the 8, so that's 8 o'clock, that's easy, okay, and the big hand is pointing between the 12 and the 1, but ooh, wait, it's not 12 and 1 because it's the big hand, so you multiply by 5. You don't go through that whole process.
Like that. It was just quick look.
It's a reflex, and that's your system one kicking in. That's what we want to do with all grammar and vocabulary. I would love as well to talk about communicative skills, about soft skills, because I love developing those as well. It's an essential part of language learning nowadays as well. Building fluency is a small part. It should just be a small part that helps our students build reflexes so they can express themselves just like native speakers do, bilingual speakers do. They don't think about the grammar. They don't think about the vocabulary. It comes up. To expand, for example, on the reported speech, the next activity that we did with my students is we played an activity that's a lot of fun. It's called Senior Citizen. So we all know that sometimes, well, we'll all get there at one point. As we grow a little older, our hearing kind of fades away a little bit. So I have these cards where we simply have a question. And the students simply ask the question. So Olga, do you have any plans for the weekend?
Yeah, I think we would like to go to the park if the weather is good.
Oh, wait, what? Sorry, Olga, did you say you would like to go to the park and have a walk?
No, I said we would like to go to the park if the weather is good. Yeah, and have a walk would be nice.
Okay, if the weather was good, okay. Olga, what are you doing?
I'm talking to you right now.
Oh, wait, what? Sorry, Olga, my hearing is very bad. Did you say you were chatting with me?
Yeah, I said I was chatting with you. You're right.
And so the students go over each question. They pretend that they're a bit hard of hearing and they ask for confirmation. So it's a next step from just basically very specific deliberate practice where they just automate, build reflexes with basic sentence structure. Now we start putting them more and more in specific communication contexts where they need to use it. So we have hard of hearing, or senior citizen as we call it. It's fun. And then I did a mini conversations thing. I challenged them to speak for a minute, and they had a card to start the conversation. So it starts a bit like this. Olga, can you believe it? My neighbor told me he was going to have a loud rave party all night in my flat tonight. And you react, oh, dear me, Antoine, that's really? In your flat, actually? Olga, are you still there? Or is it me? I'm not sure if I'm still live and Olga is gone, or if it's the other way around.
something happened. It's my internet.
Don't worry, don't worry. I wasn't sure if it was you or I was out
It
of
was
the picture.
me, unfortunately.
Don't worry.
I heard it was like that, Olga, and then disappeared.
Well, so you see this kind of practice build-up is simply starting with basic reflexes and gradually pushing the students in very specific contexts. It's still deliberate practice, but expanding gradually towards more developing fluency, where you, the teacher, can just listen and pay attention to the reflexes that you're trying to build and develop. Whether the students will need some more deliberate practice next lesson, whether they'll need the same or a step up. So basically, these mini conversations, students are developing their fluency, and you, the teacher, you're planning your next lesson.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing these two absolutely helpful topics, and I can see that they're very closely connected, and it's so good that we covered both of them, because I see the absolute connection with them, and I think keeping both in mind, we can really make our lessons better and succeed in helping our students so much. Definitely, thank you, Antoine, and for the activities, they're just priceless. It's just bravo to you. Thank you. You said that it would be very nice to talk about the developing soft skills and communicative skills. What if we transfer it to our next session? What do you think of it?
Oh, absolutely. I agree with you. That's a whole, yes, it's a whole big thing, because what we've talked about today, it might sound, if again, we talked about myths and debunking and the era of slogans. If someone quickly listened to this, like half listened to our live, it might seem like we're advocating that we should only teach grammar and just build reflexes, things like that. That's not true. That's not true. For example, what I did, I talked about my teens today doing reported speech. It is part of a month-long project. Whatever grammar vocabulary that we put in the lesson that comes in place is part of what we call a skill check. So we give students a clear direction, what we're going to do. These are teenagers. So actually this month right now, what I told them we were doing is we're preparing to resolve issues with adults.
Okay.
And that to teenagers,
nice.
that really spoke to them. It's like, oh, yes. Whether with parents, teachers, the teenagers are often, yes, they're often in situations where adults tell them what to do, what not to do, how to behave, how not to behave. And so report speech is part of that, being able to say, hey, well, but this other person told me this, that other person told me that. We included present perfect, for example, in this skill check as well. That was last week, because present perfect, they can talk, they can explain themselves in the present. Oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to. I've done this, or I haven't done that. And it's past that explains the present. So everything is part of real life. Deliberate practice is there to specifically work on specific skills that we need for a grander, greater scheme of things. And yeah, I'd love to expand on that on another live stream, absolutely.
We should definitely plan it, because that would be absolutely valuable topic as well. As to just sum up today's session, can I ask you such a question? What a true teacher is, and how to reach that level?
A true teacher?
In your opinion?
I would say a true teacher knows that they need a certain number of tools, and they're open to finding new tools and adding them to their toolbox. There is sometimes, I've noticed, there's sometimes almost kind of certain religions or sects in language teaching where people hook on to one approach, one methodology, and advocate that that is the only way of teaching. Everything else is wrong, and that is the only path forward. And to me, that's a bit like a violinist playing with a violinist with one chord. I blame the students of those teachers because, you know what? You need to be able to work on communicative skills, soft skills. You also need to be able to build reflexes. Grammar, vocabulary is an essential part of the language, and you need to be able to do that efficiently for the students and also for yourself, because it's a lot of work, let's face it. So yeah, I would say that a true teacher is open-minded and has a toolbox of different approaches, different kinds of practice, and knows when to use what.
Yes, being flexible, as I can say from what you have just said. Thank you, Antoine. Thank you so much for all of the ideas, for all the knowledge which you shared just in 45 minutes. That was a tremendous lesson to everyone. Thank you guys for being with us. You see, you have applauses, you have bravos. Oh, just a sec, where is this? These are bravos to you. Thank you so much for making it tonight and for sharing
Absolutely.
We are planning another session.
We
I
should
wish
definitely
you,
plan another one.
for sure. I wish you a very nice evening, good rest of the week, and see you in next sessions. Guys, thank you so much for being with us.
You too, Olga. And I do want to say again and repeat my praise at the beginning. I definitely want to have another one with you because, yes, you're a tremendous host. You don't just improvise like that and, oh, let's just go live anytime or anything like that. It's an actual real session. And it was, honestly, yes, it was both a pleasure and I found it useful myself. It's nice to get your ideas organized and answer meaningful questions.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Antoine. Biggest thanks and warmest wishes, and see you very, very soon. Thank you, everyone. Please share this session with anyone for whom it will be useful. Please leave your comments below if you would like to add anything, if you have any kind words to say. If you have any questions, also leave them below. And we'll see you in our next sessions. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.